Hello, today we're going to be doing some more practice with factoring quadratic expressions. Remember that quadratic expressions look something like x squared plus bx, b is just some number, plus c is just some number. And what we want to do is we want to basically undistribute this expression to where it looks like this. So we want to be able to rewrite this as its factored form, which is going to look like two sets of parentheses, and each set will be x plus a number, so some number goes here. If it's a negative number, there'll be a minus sign instead of a plus sign. So the key thing to this is you need to find the two numbers that multiply together to give you your C number, whatever number is in this spot, and add together to give you your B number, whatever number is in this spot. First couple will be exactly like what we've done. The rest of them are slightly different. The process is the same, but the way they look, either answer-wise or at the beginning-wise, looks a little different. So for this first one, I like to label my B and my C first. The number that's in that B spot is 9. The number that's in the C spot is 8. Remember, you can use your factoring sheet to help you out. So when we are using our factoring sheet, look in the list for the number 8. So my factors of 8 are 1 and 8, 2 and 4, and that's it. We want to have two numbers that when we add them together, we get 9. When we multiply together, we get 8. Looking at my list of numbers, the only two that will work are 1 and 8, because 1 plus 8 is 9, 1 times 8 is 8, like we were looking for. So we've done the hard work, now we just need to write our final answer. Our final answer is going to be two sets of parentheses. A is in the front of both sets of parentheses. And now we just insert those two numbers we came up with. They're both positive, so a plus 1 or a plus 8. If you wrote it the other way around, a plus 8 and then a plus 1, that's fine as long as you have all the parentheses where they need to be. Let's try another one. So our next one, my B number, it looks like there's not a number here. There's actually a hidden number. Anytime you see x, it's the same as 1x. So my B number is 1, my C number is negative 90. So we are looking for two numbers that when I multiply, I get negative 90. When I add them, I get 1. Since this is a negative number, I'm going to need one positive number and one negative number. The only way I can get a negative number is by doing positive times negative. So I'm going to look in my 90 list on my factoring sheet. Kind of a long list. And out of all of those sets of numbers, remember each set is two numbers. If I make one number positive and one number negative, which set will give me a positive 1? The only set of numbers in here that are different by only 1 is 9 and 10. So I need to figure out how to add some sort of either negative 9 or positive 9 and negative 10 or positive 10 so that I only get 1. The only way I can have 9 plus 10 equal 1 is if I make it a negative 9 and a positive 10. Negative 9 plus 10 equals 1. Negative 9 times 10 gives us the 90 like we were looking for. So our final answer, our variable is x, so both sets of parentheses start with an x. And then we fill in the two numbers we came up with. Number 9 is one of them, or negative 9, sorry. Positive 10 is the other. All right, next one. The number in my B spot is negative 10. The number in my C spot is positive 25. So when I have a negative number here for B, but a positive number for C, the only two ways I can get a positive number by multiplying is I can do positive times positive will give me a positive, or negative times negative will give me a positive. Since my B number is negative, I'm going to be looking for two negative numbers. In order to find those two negative numbers, though, we need to go to our 25 list. So I can get to 25 by doing 1 times 25 or 5 times 5. Out of those sets, which of those could possibly get me to add up to negative 10? The only one that will work will be 5 and 5. But how can I make 5 plus 5 equal negative 10? Again, I need two negative numbers, so it's going to be a negative 5 and a negative 5. Negative 5 plus negative 5 or negative 5 minus 5, they mean the same thing, gives us negative 10. So to write our final answer, n is our variable. And then let's just fill in the two numbers we came up with, and they were both negative 5. So you can write that as n minus 5 times n minus 5. However, there is another way to write this. So this right here, perfectly lovely final answer. I'd be very happy if you came up with that. However, sometimes, like if it's multiple choice and you don't see this, there's another way this can be written. Since I have two of the exact same factor, we know if we multiply a variable by itself, x times x, I get x squared. I can do the same thing with a factor in parentheses. I have two of the same exact thing being multiplied together. So as a shortcut, instead of writing n minus 5 times n minus 5, I can just write n minus 5 squared. They both mean the same thing. They're both completely correct. It's just up to you how you want to write your answer. Moving right along. For this next one, my B number is 2. My C number is 1. So looking in my ones list, which is a very short list, the only way you can get to 1 by multiplying is 1 and 1. So, as default, I have to pick the two numbers 1 and 1. They're both going to be positive numbers since everything in our expression is positive. So let's write our final answer. My number I came up with was 1 in both cases. But let's also just practice the other way to write this. Since it's x plus 1 times x plus 1 something times itself, I can rewrite that as just x plus 1 all squared. Either of those are perfectly lovely, acceptable answers. We're going to do 4 more. Just give me a moment to get ready for that. Okay. So, you might already have noticed, hey, Mrs. Avers, wait. These, we always see 3 terms in, but I only see 2 terms in these ones. Little different, they work almost exactly the same. We'll get there in a moment. Let's try the one that looks like what we know. So, for this one, my B term, the number in front of x is 16. My C term, the number at the end of the expression is 64. When I'm going to try to find my 2 numbers, I need 2 numbers that multiply to 64, but add up to 16. So we're going to look in our 64 list. What is the only 2 numbers, if I add them together as a set, that will give me 16? Looking carefully, the only 2 that'll add up to 16 is 8 and 8. Both are positive because everything here in our expression to start off with is positive. So our variable is x. That goes at the beginning of each expression. And it's positive 8, so plus 8 and plus 8, like that. Or, remember, you can rewrite that. Since we have the same factor written twice, it's just x plus 8 squared. Either one is perfectly acceptable, whatever makes the most sense for your brain. All right, like I said, these ones look a little bit different. So we have a number in the x squared, or in this case n squared spot. We have a just regular number at the end. So my C in this problem is negative 81. I do not have a regular n term in the middle, like a regular x term here. So I'm missing something here. The way that we deal with that is we insert a 0. If I have 0 times n, that's the same as 0. So since I see no n's here, it's like I have 0 n's. So to make our life a little easier and make this look a little more like what we're used to, I'm going to just add add a 0n term in the middle. And I'll explain a little bit more once we get the rest of the way through the problem. So now that I have it rewritten, these two things mean the exact same thing. I didn't change anything about it because 0 times n is 0. Adding to 0 to something doesn't make anything any different. But it's easier to see now that my b number is 0 and my c number is negative 81. So we're going to proceed like we've been doing. We're going to look in our 81 list. Here it is. We're going to be looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 81, so one of these sets of numbers, but add it to 0. The only two numbers in here that would add up to 0 potentially would be this right here, if I make one of these a positive 9 and one of these a negative 9. Just to kind of reiterate, negative 9 plus 9 gives me 0, which is what I need. Negative 9 times 9 gives me negative 81. So my two numbers are going to be negative 9 and positive 9. So my final answer will look like n minus 9, and then n plus 9. Now, I need to kind of remind you why that little trick we did with the 0n works. You do not have to do this when you do these on your own, but remember to check your answer to these. You can always double distribute and make sure you got back what you started with. So if I double distribute this, n squared plus 9n minus 9n minus 81, we know that our next step is combining like terms. N squared doesn't combine with anything. 9n minus 9n, 9 minus 9 gives me 0, so those cancel, and then I get the minus 81 that I looked for. So this looks like what I started with. Everything checks out. It all worked out. It's just that 0n in the middle was easier to think about because we're used to having a number for b in the middle. Again, when you do these, you do not have to go through the double distributing, but you're always welcome to if you'd like to check your work. Let's try a couple more. So, once again, we see an x squared term. We see a number term. So my c in this problem is negative 64. I don't see a b number though. So it's like I have a plus 0x there in the middle. Or if you want to rewrite the whole thing, because it's easier to read, it's like having x squared plus 0x minus 64. Which means my b is 0. My c is negative 64. I'm going to just copy my 64 list. Again, you can use that factoring sheet I put on Canvas, or if you know these without using the factoring sheet, even better. Good for you. All right. So looking in our 64 list, how can I get a 0 out of those numbers? The only way I can get a 0 out of those numbers is obviously one has to be positive and one has to be negative, and it has to be positive 8 and negative 8. So my final answer here is going to be x plus 8 times x minus 8. And as a friendly reminder, if you write your answer the other way, like for instance with x minus 8 first, then x plus 8, that means the same thing. It's perfectly fine. All right, one last one. We notice once again we're missing a b term in the middle. So that's the same as n squared plus 0n minus 16, if it makes things easier for you to see. So I'm going to be looking in my 16 list for two numbers that multiply to negative 16, but add it to 0. There is my 16 list. Obviously, to get a 0, one needs to be negative, one needs to be positive. The only way I can add a set of two numbers together, one negative and one positive, and get 0 would be 4 and negative 4. So my two numbers are 4 and negative 4. 4 plus negative 4 is 0. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. So let's write our final answer. N is our variable. Plus 4 is going to go inside one set of parentheses. Minus 4 is going to go inside the other one. And that is it for today for factoring. Hopefully now you're feeling like a factoring rock star. I hope you have a fantastic day.